Hello, this is Jason. This is an introduction to the Palimpsest sequencer. It's a modulation sequencer written as alternate firmware for mutable instruments peaks. Palimpsest allows you to create sequences with a pair of triggers, a clock trigger and then a brush trigger, and either build up sequences over time, either slowly or quickly, and then control the rate at which previous sequences decay over time. And so you're essentially building sequences by piling them on top of each other and choosing the rate at which they are erased. Probably the easiest way to show you how this works is to go through the controls. The first control is the number of steps. That's knob 1, and that goes anywhere from 9 steps up to 16. So for this demo, I'm just going to leave it on 16 steps most of the time here. To advance the step, send a trigger or gate to and that will advance the next step. And each step has a single voltage associated with it. And that voltage goes out the out 1. And for this demo, I'm just sending it to the Curtis filter. So we're just kind of sequencing the filter here, just to keep it simple. There's a bipolar offset, that's knob 2, and that determines how much is added or subtracted to the voltage. I'm just going to leave this at 0 now. I'm going to send a gate to the basically a pulse from LFO to the sequencer here, and this advances at steps. All of the steps are at 0 volts right now, so we don't hear anything. And then trigger 2 determines the when voltage is added. And so when trigger 2 is on, it adds a voltage to the current step based on the third knob, or the compose knob. So you can either use the manual button to trigger it, or an external source like a LFO or another sequencer. So here I'll just kind of create a manual sequence by holding down the button here and playing with the compose knob. So as long as I had that trigger down, it was adding the voltage to the steps, and then I can use the offset. Now when the trigger is not on, it subtracts a voltage at the end of the step equal to the setting of this knob number 4, the decompose knob. And so I can take my whole sequence out just a little bit at a time by turning this up a little bit. So on each subsequent pass, it's erased a little bit until it's gone. If I want to delete an entire sequence, I can just turn the decompose knob all the way up, and it'll be gone pretty quickly. When the decompose knob is down and the compose knob is down, the sequence is essentially safe. There's nothing that can take away or add to it. So here I'm going to do something simple. Just send another LFO into the brush trigger, and then turn the compose up a little bit. And so the voltage is added little by little as it goes past. If I have it composing and decomposing at the same time, either at different rates or at the same rate, then the sequence will kind of slowly evolve over time. like I said, once you get something you like, then you can turn down both compose and decompose, and the sequence is kind of safe from any changes. Now we're going to erase this sequence by taking out the trigger, turning decompose all the way up for a single cycle. Sequence is gone. Now what I'm going to do is use another sequencer to imprint itself on Palimpsest. I'm going to send this clock signal at the same rate as my master clock into the Laddick trigger sequencer. The output of that is going to go into the brush trigger. And then I'm going to turn compose up a little bit and set some steps in the trigger sequencer. And I'll set kind of different ones over time so that they don't always have the same values. If you're using an external trigger sequencer like this, and you turn both compose and decompose all the way up, then your sequence is essentially always going to follow the trigger sequencer. One thing you can do is to set very low compose and decompose values, and then put on an irregular LFO or a modulated LFO, and just kind of see what emerges over time as the parts of the sequences are strengthened and removed.